when we had discussed Unit 1 and 3. So those of you who are familiar with MMPC 003, which is the course code, you know that the course is divided into 4 blocks. And there are total 14 chapters. So first block is Introduction to Business Environment. The second block is Overview of Indian Economy. The third block is Structural Reforms. And the fourth block is International Business Environment. So we have discussed from the first block 2 chapters in our previous counseling session. Today we'll be focusing on Unit 8, which is New Economic Policy, which is part of block 3, and Unit 7, which is Agribusiness Environment, which is part of Block 2. And on the basis of the discussion that we have today, you'll be able to read the remaining chapters. And I would request you that all of you please go through the course material or the study material, at least read it at least 3 times, underline them, discuss the questions, self-assessment questions, discuss the exercises which are at the end, and then also you have previous some questions which were of previous years on the website. You can see what is the trend. I don't know, yours would be the first batch, but then some of the questions you can have an idea which is available on website. So now we would begin with the new economic policy. Now, it's why do we have to study business environment? All of you know that when you are living in an economy, any economy, then you need to have an environment. Like a student needs an environment to study at home. Similarly, business needs an environment to prosper. The economy needs an environment to prosper. So it is very important to have a favorable business environment, and for this, the role of various bodies, the government, the business, the society, the pressure groups, all play a very important role. So we will begin with new economic policy. This is Unit 8. So, okay. New economic policy. Now, Indian economy, as you know, we became independent in the 50s. And after that, we had planning commission, and we had 5-year plans, which used to cater to all the sectors. And sometimes there was emphasis on industrial sector. There was sometimes an emphasis on agriculture sector, and so on. It went. Sometimes it was on poverty removal. So each plan had its emphasis. But what we realized later, that gradually we observed that in 1991 we were not able to meet the export expenses. We were not able to survive as an economy, as there was a lot of not only due to internal environment, also due to external environment. And the economy was in shreds. Why? There was fiscal deficit, there was foreign exchange reserves were not sufficient. So we, in that case, some of the other neighboring economies which are also facing like this now. So we had no option but to go to the international organizations, and we had to go to IMF. And IMF said that we are okay to lend you finances or give you loans, but on the basis of certain conditionalities. It will be on the basis of certain conditions. So this is the beginning of the uh, new economic policy of 1991, and this laid emphasis on the basis of conditionalities of IMF. It based on liberalization, privatization, and globalization, which is known as LPG. And there was a shift of policy. India had used to furnish licenses to new business houses. Now licenses were removed, and it was liberalized nationalization. From nationalization to where there was a protectionism, and the government was doing the entire uh, production. So it was later on, it was moved to privatization. Now, some of the internal factors we have discussed. Now, what was the international factors which created or laid emphasis on the new economic policy of 1997? Was the disintegration of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic and the Gulf Wars. So, as a result, this had a detrimental. Now you know that there's another two wars are going on in the world, and let's not. One is between Ukraine and Russia, and the other is in Israel. So we see that there is a detrimental impact on as exports are affected, movement of goods and services, movement of personals is affected. So similarly, we saw that international factors had its cascading effect, and then the internal factors, like there was decline in Indian exports on one hand and a rise in crude oil prices, then balance of payment crisis, fall in foreign exchange earnings, and burgeoning fiscal deficit of 8.54%. Foreign exchange reserves were sufficient for only 3 weeks of exports. This was the scenario. And India had approached, as a result, approached International Monetary Fund for grants and assistance. Now,
Sorry, madam, for interrupting. As you know, can we have a little explanation in Hindi also? Because it will be better that we will understand the listeners more, and it will be more understandable
wait,
for
wait, wait,
us.
wait. Yes, yes, you are saying what do you want? Can you repeat it?
मैम मैं ये कह रहा था कि बीच
Uh-huh.
बीच में अगर थोड़ी सी एक्सप्लेनेशन हिंदी में भी होगी तो ये बहुत अच्छा होगा हम लोगों के लिए, क्योंकि हमारा फर्स्ट लैंग्वेज जो है इंग्लिश नहीं है, पर हमारे सब क्लासमेट को इंग्लिश से ज़्यादा हिंदी बहुत आती है। तो
अच्छा, हिंदी
अगर
आती है। अच्छा, अच्छा, अच्छा।
हाँ
ओके,
मैम, हम
ओके,
सबको हिंदी
ओके,
आती है, तो बीच बीच में थोड़ी सी एक्सप्लेनेशन अगर हिंदी में भी होगी तो इट विल बी मोर यूजफुल।
ओके, ओके। यू शुड हैव टोल्ड मी अर्लियर। हाँ, ओके, 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 डेफिनेटली आई
मैम
विल।
मैंने पहला क्लास मिस किया था, तो ये सेकंड
अच्छा,
क्लास
अच्छा।
है एंड इट्स माय
नहीं,
फर्स्ट टाइम।
नहीं। हाँ, नहीं, ठीक है, मैं वैसे ही करूँगी, मैं वैसे ही करूँगी। मुझे
थैंक
भी
यू मैम,
मिक्स्ड
थैंक
हिंदी
यू।
आती है। मुझे उम्मीद है आप जो है समझ सकेंगी मेरी हिंदी, ठीक है?
हम सब
तो
समझेंगे मैम,
एक
थैंक यू,
स्टूडेंट का
धन्यवाद।
फीडबैक था, पहले पहले वाले सेशन में एक स्टूडेंट का फीडबैक था कि आप बहुत जल्दी बोल रही हैं। तो इस बार मैं थोड़ा स्लो चल रही हूँ और मैं हिंदी में भी बोलूँगी आप लोग से। हाँ? ओके।
थैंक यू मैम, थैंक यू।
हाँ। हाँ, तो हम लोग अभी तक जो डिस्कस किए हैं, कि हम लोग एक्चुअली में 2 चैप्टर्स आज पढ़ रहे हैं। इसको पढ़ने से आप लोग को आइडिया लग जाएगा कि रिमेनिंग चैप्टर्स को कैसे पढ़ना है। तो ये हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं किस कोर्स का? तो हमारा कोर्स है बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट, और बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट का हम थर्ड ब्लॉक और सेकंड ब्लॉक के एक-एक चैप्टर्स को डिस्कस कर रहे हैं। तो न्यू इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी ऐसी क्या जरूरत पड़ी इंडिया को कि वो न्यू इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी लाना पड़ा? ऐसा क्या जरूरत थी? इंटरनल फैक्टर्स भी इसके लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल थे और कुछ एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर्स भी रिस्पॉन्सिबल थे। इंटरनल फैक्टर्स जो रिस्पॉन्सिबल थे कि हमारा, जो कि हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे, कि हमारे पास एक्सपोर्ट्स के पेमेंट के लिए भी ये जो था डिक्लाइन हो, एक्सपोर्ट्स का डिक्लाइन हो गया था, क्रूड ऑयल प्राइसेस बढ़ गए थे, बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट क्राइसिस हो गया था, फिजिकल डेफिसिट हमारा 8.4% था। डेफिसिट आप समझते हैं ना, द डिफरेंस बिटवीन इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर, गवर्नमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर। और हमारा जो फॉरेन एक्सचेंज था वो केवल 3 वीक इंपोर्ट को बस ही कर सकता था, फंडिंग कर सकता था। तो एज अ रिजल्ट जो है हम लोगों को ऐसा सिनेरियो हो गया कि कैसे सर्वाइवल डिफिकल्ट हो गया था। तो हम लोग को वर्ल्ड बॉडी के पास जाना पड़ा। तो वर्ल्ड बॉडी इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड जो है वो कहा कि हम लोग ग्रांट तो असिस्टेंस देंगे, लेकिन आपको मानना पड़ेगा हमारे कंडीशंस को। तो क्या कंडीशंस है, तो आपको अपने इकोनॉमी को हम लोग अभी डिस्कस करेंगे, आपको अपने इकोनॉमी को लिबरलाइज करना होगा, क्योंकि हम लोग अभी डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि लिबरलाइज, प्राइवेटाइज और ग्लोबलाइज करना होगा इकोनॉमी को। आप देख रहे होंगे हमारे नेबरिंग कंट्रीज में भी ये सब सिनेरियो अभी आ गया है, और वहां भी IMF कंडीशनैलिटीज इम्पोज कर रहा है। तो अब हम डिस्कस करेंगे कि लिबरलाइजेशन कैसे करना है, प्राइवेटाइजेशन कैसे करना है, ग्लोबलाइजेशन कैसे करना है, इसको हम लोग धीरे धीरे डिस्कस करेंगे। तो ये जो उस समय ये भी देखा गया, जब हमारा 1991 में इंडिया का सिचुएशन ऐसा था बहुत, तो देखा गया कि ईस्ट इंडियन इकोनॉमीज जो है, जो जैसे कि सिंगापुर, मलेशिया, ये सब ग्रो कर रही थी। तो ये कैसे ग्रो कर रही थी, तो इनका एक्सपोर्ट लेड ग्रोथ था। आयात निर्यात आप समझते हैं ना, तो इनका एक्सपोर्ट लेड ग्रोथ था। तो अब हम लोग को IMF की बातें माननी पड़ी थी। तो हम लोग जो है क्या क्या करना था, मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक स्टेबलाइजेशन करना था और स्ट्रक्चरल एडजस्टमेंट दोनों हम लोग को करना था। तो मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक स्टेबलाइजेशन कैसे होगा, तो टैक्स रिफॉर्म्स के थ्रू होगा, बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट रिफॉर्म्स के थ्रू होगा, मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी जो बैंकिंग है और रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया है उसने काफी चेंजेस किया मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी में। इन्फ्लेशन जो है, इन्फ्लेशन एक ऐसा सिचुएशन है जब इकोनॉमी में परचेजिंग पावर जाता, प्राइजेस बहुत हाई हो जाते हैं। कहा जाता है, इन्फ्लेशन का एक डेफिनेशन है, टू मेनी गुड्स, टू टू मच मनी परचेजिंग टू फ्यू गुड्स। तो तो ऐसे में क्या हो गया, ऐसा सिनेरियो हो गया मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक में। और स्ट्रक्चरल एडजस्टमेंट बहुत जरूरी हो गया हम लोग को इसमें। बैंकिंग सेक्टर रिफॉर्म्स करना पड़ा, बहुत सारे बैंक्स का मर्जर हो गया। उसका गवर्नमेंट जो है उस समय सब्सिडीज देती थी, फर्टिलाइजर फ्यूल की सब्सिडीज देती थी, वो सब बंद करना पड़ा। डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट, गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत सारे जो हमारे ये इंडस्ट्रीज हैं, जो गवर्नमेंट ओन पब्लिक PSU जिसको कहते हैं, पब्लिक सेक्टर यूनिट्स में बहुत इन्वेस्ट कर चुकी थी, और बहुत सारे उसमें से यूनिट्स जो हैं वो सिक हो गए थे। तो वहां गवर्नमेंट ने कहा कि हम अब वहां से विड्रॉ करेंगे अपने एक्सपेंसेस को, और डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट की बात होने लगी। उसके बाद ड्यूटीज एंड टैरिफ्स को भी कैसे हम ड्यूटीज एंड टैरिफ्स मेड ट्रेड अट्रैक्टिव, लेकिन हम लोग का उस समय इम्पोर्ट को हम लोग इंकरेज करते नहीं थे, तो हम लोग इम्पोर्ट टैरिफ्स किए हुए थे, प्रोटेक्टेड इकोनॉमी था। तो उसके बाद गवर्नमेंट ने फिर लिबरलाइज प्राइवेटाइजेशन की बात करने लगी, इकोनॉमिक रिफॉर्म्स। तो उसके बाद जैसे हर रिफॉर्म है, रिफॉर्म तो होने लगा, लेकिन चूंकि ये इस तरह का रिफॉर्म था, थोड़ा इकोनॉमी में अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट भी आने लगा। लेकिन अब हम लोग इसको एक एक करके देखेंगे। लिबरलाइजेशन में हुआ क्या, लिबरलाइजेशन में हमने क्या आइडेंटिफाई किया, 18 इंडस्ट्रीज। और ये जो है ना, ये 18 इंडस्ट्रीज को इंडस्ट्रियल लाइसेंसिंग इनका प्रून कर दिया गया। और इसमें कैसे कौन कौन से इंडस्ट्रीज थे इनको ओपन करने किया गया, हैजार्डस केमिकल्स, लग्जरी गुड्स जैसे कि टीवी और रेफ्रिजरेटर एंड वो वाइट और लग्जरी गुड्स, टेलीविजन। हाँ, ये सब का को अब थोड़ा बहुत लिबरल ये करने लगा गया, इनके ऊपर से लाइसेंसिंग हटाया गया। उसका सेकंड है कि इंडस्ट्रीज जो कि पब्लिक सेक्टर में थे उनको भी लिबरलाइज करने लगा गया। वहां से डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट, गवर्नमेंट अपने शेयर जो थी इंडस्ट्री में उसको विड्रॉ करने लगी, लाइसेंसिंग होने लगा। तो ये इस तरह से लिबरलाइजेशन हो रहा था। उसके बाद हम लोगों ने फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट को अट्रैक्ट करने के लिए काफी कुछ करने लगा। हम लोगों ने लमसम इन्वेस्टमेंट शुरू की इन एडवांस टेक्नोलॉजी। और उसके बाद 51% फॉरेन इक्विटी हमने उनको पार्टिसिपेट करने दिया किसी भी मतलब एक सेलेक्टेड इंडस्ट्रीज में, इलेक्ट्रिकल इक्विपमेंट, मेटलर्जिकल। फिर हम लोगों ने, हमारा एक लॉ था मोनोपोलीज एंड रिस्ट्रिक्टिव ट्रेड प्रैक्टिसेस, जो अनफेयर ट्रेड प्रैक्टिसेस को रिस्ट्रिक्ट करती थी, उसको हटा के फिर एक दूसरा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आया जो कि हम लोग उस दिन डिस्कस कर रहे थे, कंपटीशन कमीशन। तो हर जगह है ना, गवर्नमेंट जो है लिबरलाइजेशन में लिबरलाइज करने लगी और ओपन करने लगी इकोनॉमी, जहाँ की और फॉरेन पार्टिसिपेशन हो और गवर्नमेंट का रोल कम होते जाए। सिक इंडस्ट्रीज को हम लोग रेफर करने लगे, BFR को। फिर प्राइवेटाइजेशन में भी 3 तरह का प्राइवेटाइजेशन हुआ, एक ओनरशिप का हुआ, एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल हुआ और थर्ड ऑपरेशनल हुआ। ओनरशिप में हमने डीनेशनलाइजेशन हम करने लगे, 100% ट्रांसफर ऑफ ओनरशिप पब्लिक एंटरप्राइज से प्राइवेट सेक्टर में होने लगा, जॉइंट वेंचर्स होने लगे, पार्शियल ट्रांसफर हुआ। ये मतलब किसी किसी इंडस्ट्रीज का डीनेशनलाइजेशन हुआ, किसी का जॉइंट पार्टिसिपेशन हुआ। जॉइंट पार्टिसिपेशन में वेंचर में 25% पार्टिसिपेशन था, 51% था, 74% था इन प्राइवेट इक्विटी में। लिक्विडेशन होने लगा, सेल ऑफ एसेट्स जहाँ जहाँ पे पॉसिबल था होने लगा। वर्कर्स कोऑपरेटिव हम लोग फॉर्म करने लगे, ट्रांसफर टू वर्कर्स हु मे फॉर्म अ कोऑपरेटिव। ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मेजर्स में फाइनेंशियल रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग हुआ। फाइनेंशियल रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग में लॉसेस जो थे उसको राइट ऑफ कर दिया गया और फिर उसको नए सिरे से उसको इन्वेस्टमेंट शुरू किया गया, डेट। और बेसिक रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग था कि पब्लिक सेक्टर जो है वो उसको वो डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट के टर्म्स में वो विड्रॉ करने लगी। और जैसे कि पब्लिक सेक्टर आप देखेंगे कि जो पहले पब्लिक सेक्टर थे उनके एडजॉइनिंग एरियाज में बहुत एंसिलरी यूनिट्स होती थी, स्मॉल स्केल यूनिट्स होते थे, गवर्नमेंट वहां से भी थोड़ा था विड्रॉ करने लगी। उसके बाद ग्लोबलाइजेशन आ जाए। ग्लोबलाइजेशन का मतलब है कि आप कैसे वर्ल्ड के दूसरे इकोनॉमी से इंटीग्रेट करते हैं। अब इसके लिए क्या करना होगा, रिडक्शन ऑफ ट्रेड बैरियर कम होना, टैरिफ वॉर जो हम लोगों ने किया था, फ्री ट्रेड होना चाहिए, फ्री फ्लो ऑफ कैपिटल होना चाहिए, फ्री फ्लो ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी एंड लेबर होना चाहिए। इसके लिए इम्पोर्ट ड्यूटी काफी कम की, सरकार ने काफी कम की। और उसके बाद इनका फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट को कैसे अट्रैक्ट किया गया, तो उसके बाद फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट 51% पार्टिसिपेशन अलाउ किया गया। उसके बाद 96 में 1991 में 51% पार्टिसिपेशन था। 1996 में 74% पार्टिसिपेशन हो सकता था कभी कोई इंडस्ट्रियल इन्वेस्टमेंट में, मतलब कि इतना फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट होता, बाकी इंडिजिनस इन्वेस्टमेंट होता। और अब तो 100% FDI हो गया, गवर्नमेंट ने अलाउ कर दी है। इसको कहते हैं ऑटोमेटिक रूट के थ्रू, जैसे किस किस सेक्टर में, माइनिंग में, ब्रॉडकास्टिंग में, एयरपोर्ट, इंडस्ट्रियल पार्क्स, टेलीकॉम, फार्मास्यूटिकल्स, सिंगल ब्रांड रिटेल ट्रेडिंग में, टेक्सटाइल्स में, थर्मल में, टूरिज्म में, इन सब यूनिट्स, इंश्योरेंस में गवर्नमेंट ने 100% फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट। तो ये एक मेजर था ग्लोबलाइज करने के लिए। आप कैसे अपने इकोनॉमी को ओपन अप कर रहे हैं ग्लोबल ग्लोबल पार्टिसिपेशन के लिए, कैसे ग्लोबल इंडस्ट्रियल हाउसेस इन्वेस्टर्स इंडिया में आके इन्वेस्ट करने लगे। फिर हमारा जो है फॉरेन ट्रेड पॉलिसी जो है अलग अलग न्यू इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी में था। 2015 से 2020 तक हम लोगों ने जो फॉरेन ट्रेड पॉलिसी अडॉप्ट किया, उसमें एक था एक्सपोर्ट फ्रॉम इंडिया स्कीम। उसमें एक्सपोर्ट को कैसे बढ़ाया जाए, तो एक्सपोर्ट को बढ़ाने के लिए उसको 3 कैटेगरी में ग्रुप किया गया। एक ट्रेडिशनल मार्केट, कंट्री बी इमर्जिंग मार्केट, कंट्री सी 70 कंट्रीज जिसको कहते हैं जो अडजॉइनिंग हमारे हमारे नेबर्स हैं, इसमें क्लासिफाई किया गया। और ये मर्केंडाइज एक्सपोर्ट फ्रॉम इंडिया स्कीम है। उसके बाद दूसरा था सर्विस एक्सपोर्ट फ्रॉम इंडिया स्कीम। सर्विस एक्सपोर्ट ये क्या क्या इसके अंदर जो है 3% to 5% जो है इंसेंटिव्स प्रोवाइड किया जाता है एक्सपोर्टर्स को। क्योंकि हम लोगों ने, देखिए आप लोग जो थोड़ा बहुत इकोनॉमिक्स जानते हैं, आप जानते होंगे कि हर इकोनॉमी का 3 सेक्टर होता है। एक होता है प्राइमरी सेक्टर, एक जिसको एग्रीकल्चर कहते हैं, एक होता है सेकेंडरी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, और थर्ड होता है सर्विसेज, जिसको टर्शरी सेक्टर कहते हैं। तो ये देखा गया कि अगर इंडियन इकोनॉमी में कि वो एग्रीकल्चर ओरिएंटेड इकोनॉमी था प्राइमरी सेक्टर, उसके बाद सर्विसेज पे एम्फेसिस किया गया। लेकिन उसके बाद देखा गया कि इकोनॉमी को अगर ग्रो करना है तो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बहुत एसेंशियल है। तो इसलिए मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को इनकरेज करने के लिए यहाँ पर क्या किया गया, इंसेंटिव्स भी दी गई सर्विसेज को भी दी गई और
Sorry,
आप
madam.
हाँ 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 क्या बात है हेलो
Sorry, madam. About the presentation of this session, I didn't catch and didn't understand nothing because I don't know Hindi. So if we discuss about this issue, we have get all the idea of all our colleagues and participant of this session, because some of us will not know Hindi and some of us will not know Hindi. So that's why I didn't understand the presentation that you had. So if we finalize this issue, it would be so great for us, because we should not take decision about one idea. Should we should refer this issue to all our participants. From my side, I didn't know Hindi. Sorry, madam, for this interrupt.
see actually this has to be decided at your level. Whether it's since one participant said, so I started in Hindi. Now I'm speaking
I
Hindi.
so sorry.
Hindi.
I don't know Hindi. That's why I interrupt
You
your
see,
Sorry,
presentation.
ma'am.
yes,
Ma'am, I think he's right because there are some students that they don't know Hindi. That will be better if we continue with English.
Yeah,
And
as
for
that's
me,
well. Listen, guys,
for me
I didn't.
personally, no
I,
problem. But there are
RC
some.
Dehradun should have spoken to you and see, I can speak. See, basically, we are okay. Now I switch over to English. Now, three, four of you are saying, see, you don't worry about this course. As I told you, I,
Ma'am, you want to ask something? Say something.
yes, I was saying because some few students in the middle of my presentation said कि please हिंदी में पढ़ाइए हम लोग को इंग्लिश समझ में नहीं आता है तो I started in Hindi. Now some are saying कि we can't understand Hindi, we please speak in English. So I was speaking Hindi mixed with English. Now I think now they are saying English, then I should speak in English.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that problem is always there, but yes, it is really difficult thing to say anything. But as per university norms, we have to primarily we have to speak in English only.
Yeah, they have to write the exams also. I think
Yes,
I don't.
Madam, our chapter and exam and assignment is based on based on to English. So that's why if we speak English, that it will be
Okay,
easy
okay, okay,
for
okay.
us to
Okay,
facilitate the
let's not waste
next.
time. I'm
yes,
speaking in English,
yes.
and
Please, ma'am.
I will just see. Already we have 25 minutes of the session has
Although
gone.
if at the end some Hindi speaking people, if you have any query, then madam can answer them in Hindi also. But the main language will be English only.
Yes, sir. I also
Thank you,
said
sir.
that we should study in our course in English, but I was just saying in some part a little bit explanation in Hindi will be more useful. I didn't say that we should start all the course in Hindi, but in the middle of the study, we should have some explanation in Hindi. That's all.
Hello to everyone. All of our classmates agree with this
Okay,
decision.
okay. I will. In
Uh,
that case, I will begin. I will explain the gist in English. I will use Hindi terms once or twice. I will speak in English for the most of the time. Okay. So let's start once again. I will just
thank
present the
you.
gist to you. See, uh, first I'll begin with the. Let me open the presentation. Yes. So far, we were, those of you who are saying you haven't understood, we were basically explaining that why was the need of new industrial policy, new economic policy, sorry. Why was the need of new economic policy in 1991? This was because of certain internal factors and due to certain external factors. Now, what were the internal factors? Internal factors was that we had fiscal deficit, 8.4%. Foreign exchange reserves was only left for 3 weeks of imports. Decline in Indian exports was one hand and a rise in crude oil prices. Now, crude oil prices, it rose because of, at that time, there was disintegration of Russia. Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, and the Gulf War was going on. So all this had a very detrimental impact on the Indian economy, and as a result, the government had to resort to some changes. But the government did have the reserves. So as a result, they went to IMF. The government approached IMF, and IMF said, "I am ready to give you grants, but based on certain conditionalities." Now, what are these conditionalities? They are, I will say, they were macroeconomic stabilization measures and structural adjustment measures, and it was basically mostly devoted on liberalization. Now, what is liberalization? India at that time was, if a new industry had to be established, India used to issue licenses. Now, liberalization did away with licenses, and it was confined only to very few industries, and it opened up the economy, and it encouraged foreign direct investment in most of the industries, 51% equity in 33 industries, and then it's resorted to privatization. What is privatization? India did away with. Now the government realized that now the economy is not in a favorable situation. So the government, what it started doing is that it the government in after liberalization, it started privatization. It started withdrawing its shares from many of the business houses. So it started disinvesting. So disinvestment started. Now this is joined. You can see everything. The entire presentation is from your course material. I'm not speaking anything outside it. So ownership measures, how joint ventures started, workers cooperative started, then financial restructuring started, losses were written off at that time, organization measures, operational measures, granting autonomy to public enterprises, provision of incentives to the employees and all. At that time, employees could participate in, ESOPs started, they could purchase shares of the company. So all this was done to privatize. And then globalize is how do LPG was the motive, liberalization, privatization, globalization. Now globalization was basically to integrate with the world economy. So import duties were reduced. Then foreign direct investment was increased from 51% in 1991 in high priority industries to 74% in 1996 and to 100% in through automatic route. So after this, we will study the foreign trade policy 2015 to 2020. And now in this, we see that there is export from India scheme, merchandise export from India scheme. Now, how was this? Countries of exports were grouped into country A, country B, country C, and country A traditional markets, country B emerging economies, and country C neighboring 70 countries like Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal. And there was service export from India scheme. This aimed at promoting export of services. As you know, that Indian economy was growing due to contribution of services also. So the aim was to promote services. Then MEIS and SEIS is extended to special economic zone. Now, special economic zone was created. This was for to encourage export of goods. And then the new scheme of Make in India was started. Boost to Make in India campaign was started. We shall be discussing it in detail later on. Then ease of doing business now, so that online filling of documents was started. Export landing documents of export consignments, they were also digitally uploaded. Then government also, you must have heard of goods and service tax. This was a great reform. The government was internally it was reforming, and externally it was globalizing. So liberalizing and privatization was going internally, and globalization was doing externally. So now GST, what is it? It was a unified tax. Now, it is a comprehensive multi-stage destination-based tax that is levied on every value addition. So, on GST, you can see how many types of GST are there. After that, government introduced various schemes like Pradhan Mantri Jan Yojana. Now, what was this Jan Dhan Yojana? This was to basically to provide basic banking services to unbanked citizens. So people were asked to open their accounts with and bank branch or business correspondent with zero balance and zero charges. This was to instill what is known as acumen for banking and financial inclusion. So this was the basic. So Jan Dhan Yojana started. All the citizens were asked to open accounts. Universal access to banking was there. There were some. They were given 1 lakh. Structural reforms insurance was given. Various types of insurance and other things were provided to them. Then government started Mudra scheme under the new economic policy, which is for micro, small, and medium enterprises. What was it? The scheme. This scheme was to provide institutional sources of finance. And how was the institution sources of finance? It was through Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana was launched. And in micro units development and refinance agency, which is the full form of Mudra, provided loans up to 10 lakhs to eligible enterprises. So this was one of the steps of the Mudra Yojana. Then comes the Swachh Bharat Mission. This you must have heard. Gandhiji had initially started it long back. Now this government also introduced this, and under this, people were discouraged to defecate outside and instead construct toilet in their premises. And government was for this purpose providing incentive of rupees 12,000 for construction of individual household latrines. And then we had this Make in India. We realized that we have so far been importing from other countries. We had a screwdriver technology. We had turnkey projects. So now it was the time for Made in India. And under the Made in India, the manufacturing was a lot of incentives was given to the manufacturing sector, and it was presumed that it will grow at the rate of 12%. And why manufacturing sector? Because it is one of the largest employment giver. At the same time, it gives impetus to the economy also in terms of production. Then we had the Stand Up India scheme. Now, Stand Up India was basically for entrepreneurial skills among women and to bring the marginalized section of the society into finance. So most of these measures that we are studying, Jan Dhan Yojana, Swachh Bharat, all this is part of the financial inclusion scheme. So this was doing, the Stand Up India was for the marginalized section, and the government had given loan of rupees 10 lakh and rupees 100 lakh was provided to the special community, the marginalized community, and the enterprises maybe in manufacturing, services, trading, in any activities to allied and agriculture activities, they can open their industries in these sectors. Then government has also introduced Prime Minister Ujjwal Yojana. This is basically to provide clean and efficient liquefied petroleum gas, that is cooking gas, to rural India. And at providing 5 crore, at that time government had provided 5 crore LPG connections to people, and then the scheme provided financial support also of rupees 1600. Now, after that, the Skill India. Now, this is the very important emphasis of government. All this is related to manufacturing, primarily to manufacturing sector and to some extent to services sector also. Government believed in skill training and upskilling people. So it set up National Skill Development Authority, National Skill Development Corporation, and Directorate General of Training. So NSDA, what it did, it implemented National Skill Qualification Framework. Various guidelines for skilling was at graduation level, at post-graduation level, at intermediate level, what would be the parameter of skilling. All this was decided, and government in this also implemented the Pradhan Mantri Krishna Kaushal Vikas Yojana and set up Kaushal Vikas Kendra. Kaushal is the meaning of Kaushal is skilling, and it also set up in industrial training institutes. Then came the pandemic. Now pandemic was had a very bad impact worldwide and to India also. So government said now it is the time of what is known as Atmanirbhar Bharat, which means the government emphasized that we are self-resilient. We have to become reliant instead of always looking outside for funds and all. So government in under this scheme specially made policies for the rural labor, the migrant labor, the poor, the farmers. And the main constituent was that we have in the Indian economy, we have demand is good, demography, we have a lot of young population, infrastructure has to be developed. All these guidelines is stipulated. Then MSME, in this MSME, new new guidelines were set up according to which the micro, small, and medium new capital and new turnover landmark was set up. For micro, it was 1 crore and 5 crore. For small, it was 10 crore and 50 crore. It was new capital was 50 crore for medium and new turnover was 250 crore. So these they were set up and investment limit accordingly was decided and turnover limit was decided. Migrant workers, they got one nation, one card scheme. They can move around in any state and they can get their through public distribution system the limited amount of grains for their family. So this was targeted in distribution system. Then Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. This was a facility for housing of migrant laborers, urban laborers, poor. Defense and civil aviation public private partnership was done. That is, the Airport Authority of India had awarded airports for operation and maintenance on a public private partnership. Energy sector emphasis was laid. Social sector there was one policy called Mahatma Gandhi Manrega, it is called Manrega, Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. Then the government also started the e-Vidya. I think you would be a part of the e-Vidya, which is known as the digital online education, Swam Prabha, e-Vidya, all this initiative was part of the new economic policy. Food security missions, where government realized that only rice, wheat, and pulse would not be enough to fulfill the needs of the people. So it emphasized also on core cereals and commercial crops. Commercial crops like sugarcane, cotton, and jute. Core cereals like millets. Now government is laying a lot of emphasis on Shri Dhan, which is called millet. Then in National Food Security Act, which under this targeted public distribution system to nearly 75% of the rural population and 50% of the urban population was designed. Smart city mission was that in every state, certain cities were identified and it was targeted to rejuvenate them through urban development. New amenities were being provided like electricity supply, solid waste management, affordable housing, e-governance, digitization. All this was part of Smart Cities mission, all part of new economic policy. Now we have completed the new economic policy. We are now moving to the agribusiness environment, which is the Unit 7. Now the basic story of agriculture is that in India is that India is primarily an agriculture economy. Now it is in the various 5-year plans we have been laying emphasis on agriculture in different ways. Like you will see that initially agriculture was prospering, but as the population increased, we had the problem of disguised unemployment as the productivity was zero, but more and more people were being applied to land. So then government came into being, and then it started introducing new reforms so that people could from agriculture also they can have an earning if they move to allied agriculture and allied goods, food processing and all. So this is the basic structure how agriculture business environment has grown. And as we have discussed that it was the key source of livelihood, and Indian economy was dependent on its. So what are the trends in agriculture production? More than half the country was reliant on agriculture, and the food industry had a huge potential for value addition with a bright prospect when the Indian food processing industry accounting to 32% of the country's total food market. So Indian industry had a large scope because we had to divert from agriculture into value addition products. So as a result, food and grocery market, which is the sixth largest globally, this was developed. Indian Sugar Mill Association and production of sugar was improved. Horticulture crops and processing of horticulture crop fruits and all was introduced. Organic food sector was also encouraged. We also invited foreign direct investment in processing industry. So these were some of the incentives. Now the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, what we saw that there were a lot of farmer suicides because the farmers they used to take loan but they were not able to pay. Then government started with this policy of providing insurance to farmers so that they can when they invest they have a cover and they do not get desperate in the end. And then government started various different types of schemes for fishery, for milk, for pisciculture, all different kind. Then to control diseases among animals. So these were some of the incentives as part of the agriculture business to improve the agriculture business environment. Then electronic national agriculture market was set up. This was enam, and this has 1,000 marketplaces were linked to enam, and the initiative was to create an integrated market for agriculture products. Evolution of farm policies in India. Now you will see that different farm policies have been adopted in different times as and there are various legislations like when India became independent in 1947 we saw that most of the lands were occupied by the jamindars or who were known as the landlords. So the government as a result to protect the rights of tenants and to redistribute land introduced a new scheme called the Jamindari Abolishment Act. Then, in this, due to Jamindari Abolition Act, we could establish state control on agricultural land holdings, on vacant lands, and we can also provide security to the tenants. After this came from 1965 to 1980. This was the situation when India had one war and had a famine. So under this situation, the government had to boost agriculture. So it started what is known as the Green Revolution. And in this, we had the cooperation of Mexican scientists also. And in Green Revolution, what it introduced the high yielding varieties of wheat and rice. And how it introduced by improved pesticides, fertilizers, irrigation methods, all this was introduced and we saw there was a revolution in especially in Punjab and adjoining areas and dwarf variety of wheat came into being and as a result wheat production increased. Then the government introduced what is known as the Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices, and it realized that only through food production the purpose will not be fulfilled. There should be certain government bodies to store the goods like the Food Corporation of India and to provide reasonable costs and prices to the agriculturists or farmers so that they do not resort to distress sale. So then National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, NABARD, and regional rural banks were also set up. So all this was done. The main problem in agriculture was that the farmers used to sell the products as distress, and they had to become the victim of money lenders. So the government, in order to remove all this, they introduced Agriculture Cost and Prices Commission to provide what is known as minimum support prices to the farmers, so that even if the crop, and insurance to the farmers, so that they can feel safe and can then grow instead of being harassed by the money lenders. Then came the 1980 to 1991 scheme. This was green revolution was so far confined to wheat and rice. Now the emphasis was to expand it to other crops and regions. So other crops like from wheat it was expanded to rice, and then it was confined to Punjab. So adjoining Western UP and other states were also included. Then production began to diversify into high value commodities such as fish, poultry, milk, fruits, and vegetables. Then in 1991, the government started a new scheme of public distribution. What is public distribution? These are centers where the marginalized section they can approach to ration cards and then can get food at economical rates. So subsidized prices food were provided through targeted public distribution system. Then this not only provided food grains at reasonable rate, but also had employment opportunities, agro-business, standard of living of rural population improved. Then came the marketing policies, national policy for farmers in 2007. The National Food Security Act was enacted in 2013 to provide for food and nutritional safety by guaranteeing access to good amount of quality food at affordable prices. Then came the Essential Commodities Act, which aims to control production, supply, distribution, and pricing of essential commodities. This was done. Then government had the power to impose stock limits on the identified commodities to prevent hoarding. So government black marketers and hoarding were penalized. They started catching hold of them. Then came the Agriculture Produce Market Regulation Act, the APMC, the Agriculture Produce Market Regulation Act. These acts are popularly with regard to state to set up regulated wholesale markets or mandis. And in the government then adopted this APMC model in various states, mandis for sale of, because the poor farmers, they used to sell the produce in the adjoining areas. They never reached the mandis, and as a result, they used to have sell at a very low rate. So government through these regulated markets provided them reasonable income as the goods were sold at reasonable prices. So minimum support prices was granted for 24 crops every year, and the FCI, the Food Commission of India, started storing the goods, the grains at economical prices. But the sad story was that this was confined to only few commodities like wheat, rice, and cotton, and the government had to plan to expand it to other sectors. Then, who are the key players in the agriculture sector? They are the merchant middlemen. These are the five middlemen who play an important role in agriculture sector. Merchant middlemen are the wholesalers. They are the wholesalers who purchase goods in large quantities. Then they are the retailers who purchase from wholesalers and sell it to directly to consumers. We have village merchants who move from village to village to directly purchase the produce from the cultivators. And these village merchants, they apply essential consumption goods to the farmers. Then Muska course. Now, Muska course is a colloquial term for retailers who often act as small wholesalers and sell fruits and vegetables. We have agent middlemen who are negotiators between sellers and buyers. These are the middlemen. Then agent middlemen, they are commission agents who take a lot of commission and sell at they act as proxy of either a seller or a buyer. We have brokers who act as communicators between buyers and sellers. So these are the various types of middlemen who play a very important role between the farmer and the final buyer. So they who buy products, speculative middlemen, they speculate and they buy products at lower price and sell at higher price. The processors who are they hire agents to buy for them. Facilitative middlemen, now who they facilitate buying and selling while assisting in the marketing process. For instance, the weighmen and graders, the transporters, the auctioneers, who are the weighmen who they facilitate weighing of produce and grade products according to different categories. The transporters facilitate in transport of goods. Auctioneers, they auction it from time to time, and by sale and bidding by consumers or buyers are equally important. Then the role and importance of agriculture marketing, optimization of resource use and output management, how the market surplus there should be sold at economical rate, and an efficient marketing wheel to help in optimization of resources has to be developed. As a result, it was designed to increase how to increase the farm income by reducing the number of middlemen and ensuring higher level of income so that the cost of marketing services is reduced. As a result, the markets were widened. When a system widens the market by taking the products to remote corners, the government facilitated in curtailing the role of middlemen and providing facilities like mandis and all for the sale of goods. Growth of agro-based industries was also a very important component. For instance, cotton, sugar, edible oils, food processing. And as you know, the government was encouraging FDI in food, FDI, which means foreign direct investment in food processing. Price signals were given initially. Government used to announce that whatever the produce would be, the government announced its minimum support price initially only. The price signals were given. Adoption of new technologies were given. So far, various machines were introduced. Employment creation was also improved through by packaging industry was improved, like wrapping, packing, transferring, storing, and rolling out. This was improved. Addition to national income was also improved through greater participation of government in encouraging the farmers, improved living situation, efficient marketing for food and agricultural product is vital to overall economic development. So the marketing system was improved, grading of the goods, packaging of the goods was improved. So with this, we conclude 2 units. Now, this is how you have to study. You don't study line by line. You underline, and like we have discussed the new economic policy, we have discussed agribusiness environment. So, when you discuss industrial policy framework, this also you will find that over the years, various industrial policy, 1956 has come, 1991 has come. It will be like when we were discussing new economic policy, some of the components were discussed. So, accordingly, when you study the balance of payment, you will be studying balance of trade, balance of payment, the technology environment, how technology is assisting the economy, both all the sectors, agriculture, services, and manufacturing. So this is the general business environment scenario which you have to study. Sorry, I was going fast today also because I had lost 15 minutes of the precious time in Hindi and English debate. So I was slurring somewhere, but I wanted to complete, and I'm sure if you follow this tactics of reading the course material 3 times, please underline and read the entire course at least 3 times. Reading means adult reading, browsing. You know what is the main point and how you have seen my slides are so detail, but I'm discussing per slide only 2-3 points. So that is how you have to underline 2-3 points. Discuss the questions at the end. See some of the previous year's questions. Uh, Practice writing at least 1-2 answers, and I'm sure your exam would not be very difficult. Any questions?
Thank you, madam, from your
No,
interesting
thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't.
presentation.
Yeah.
Although we miss for 3 months of our studying, so in 2 months we will cover all the lessons of the seven subject. So that will be a little bit problematic and complicated for us. So the main reason is that we have missed some period of studying, more than 4 or 5 months, and we have 2 months. So if my question is, what kind of question at the final for a final examination we would have? Multiple choice question, a descriptive question which you need for description, or yes no question. If you give a little bit
You are part of
information
the
about that.
E-Vidya Bharati, isn't it? E-Vidya Bharati Regional Center, Dehradun. What is your all? Hello,
Yes, our regions, Dehradun. Yes, Dehradun.
Regional Center. They will be part of the online course or E-Vidya Bharati.
सर ये विद्या भारती का पार्ट है क्या?
This is E-Vidya Bharati, isn't it?
Ma'am, these are learners of E-Vidya Bharati ICCR. These are learners from Afghanistan who have taken admission through ICCR scholarship.
Yes, yes. So the pattern of exam will be E-Vidya Bharati, isn't it? When we offer.
Yes, ma'am. E-Vidya
Uh,
Bharati through online
so,
mode only.
so your pattern would be long question, medium question, and small questions. So
Yes, ma'am.
that would be your pattern. 15 questions. 5. I don't. 7 options would be given for the long question. 5 you have to attempt. 5 has to be given. 3 has to be attempted. 3 has to be is given. 2 has to be attempted. So it will be long, medium, and small. So it will
Thank you,
be
madam.
okay. And like, see, you all, those who see, where there is a will, there is a way. Now you have, all of you are managers in some form or the other. You are taking a business management question. First thing you have to learn is to manage. Now it is 2 months, as you say. You can devote 3 hours a day and study. I think it will not be very difficult. And I can tell you, IGNU material is not like the conventional material. Here, the teacher is speaking through the material. It is called, that is why we say that it is self-directed learning, and it is self-learning material. We don't call them as books and things like that. We call them as self-learning material. So one thing you have to do is at least go through the material once, and it will not be difficult.
So thank you, madam. The volume of the lessons is so large. That's why I told the and discuss this issue.
You are not satisfied with my answer, Masoom? See, all of your managers, you will have to learn to manage.
Okay,
And
no
yes.
problem. You will manage and you will learn all these lessons
Ah,
and the designed frame of time.
yeah. Definitely. If you devote fixed time every day, I think it won't be a difficult. And you can always write in your own words. You can give examples. So all this will substantiate your answer. Any further
Thank.
questions?
So मैम ऑप्शनल क्वेश्चंस नहीं होंगे जैसे कि
ऑप्शन
ईवीएच में?
रहेंगे। हाँ, आपके जो फर्स्ट जो क्वेश्चन होगा, शॉर्ट क्वेश्चंस, उसमें से 7 में से 5 अटेम्प्ट करना है। जो मीडियम क्वेश्चंस, उसमें से आपको 5 में से, जहां तक मुझे याद है, 3 अटेम्प्ट करना है, और जो लॉन्ग क्वेश्चंस होंगे उसमें 3 में से 2 अटेम्प्ट करना है। तो यू विल
अटेम्प्ट तो
गेट।
करना है पर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था मैम कि
हाँ,
जैसे ईवीएच में होता है या अगर ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन सेंटर्स जो है वो एक क्वेश्चन के साथ 4 ऑप्शन देते हैं कि इससे हमको राइट आंसर चूज करना है। क्या इग्नोर में भी हमें ऐसे ही क्वेश्चन मिलेंगे या हमें लिखना पड़ेगा सब कुछ?
नहीं, आपको लिखना पड़ेगा
सब कुछ ऑप्शंस यानी सिलेक्ट ऑप्शन क्वेश्चन कोई भी नहीं होगा जैसे
अगर
कि
ई विद्या भारती है तब तो लिखना पड़ेगा। वो आप, अगर आप सोच रहे हैं स्वयं की तरह हो जिसमें ऑब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चंस हो, वो चीज नहीं है।
थैंक यू मैम।
और कुछ? ये मटेरियल जो है आप ही के लैंग्वेजेस में, इट हैज बीन डेवलप्ड इन योर लैंग्वेज टू मेक इट वेरी lucid for you. Just take out time and browse through the entire material. Do an intellectual reading, browse through the material, and I'm sure you'll be able to answer all the questions. Any further questions, or shall we close the session? Time is about, it's 4 p.m. Any further questions? Yes, Abdul Rahman. Yazid. There is a lot of disturbance. Yes, please. You can ask your question, Abdul.
I don't have any question.
Sorry, because of this internet problem, I couldn't hear your question. If you want, you can write chat. You can send your question through chat. Any other questions, or shall we wind up? So, with this, I close the session. Thank you for your patient listening. Sorry for wasting